My next guest went from living out of her car and singing in coffee houses to Grammy nominations and get-togethers with the First Family. Her debut CD, Pieces of You, continues to sell like hotcakes, would that be the right? Or like things that sell very fast. Welcome, Jewel. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I was watching CNN, sitting in my office, and it was, I think, Bill Clinton and Hillary were dancing, and I looked over their left shoulder, and there you were, standing next to, like, Michael Douglas and Kenny G. It was the oddest...
Julio Iglesias.
And Julio Iglesias, exactly. What were you thinking? What were you thinking when you were up there? Was it just surreal being at the inaugural ball?
I hope my dad is watching.
Was he watching you?
They didn't get that. They don't have television in the town I'm from right now for some reason.
They don't have, say that again?
They don't have television, like, right now. The carrier
Well, it hasn't gotten everywhere yet. It's slowly disseminating into the population.
Well, they quit,
television.
you know, for some reason. One
Where does he live?
Quit. Homer, Alaska.
Oh, okay. So this is, we were going to get into this. You are from Alaska.
Uh-huh.
Were you born there?
Yes, sir.
Now, where is Homer?
Homer's very center of the state at the very bottom, 200 miles south of Anchorage.
It's one of the kind of the beach resort of Alaska.
It is. It's
the southernmost point.
A bit balmy.
Now, you started, I'm reading about you, and first of all, your story sounds like something out of literature. The idea of, at 6 years old, you're playing restaurants in Alaska and bars and things?
Yeah, bars weren't until I was 8.
Well, that's good. It's always nice to hold the kids off. What was that like? Because I imagine bars in Alaska to be just roughhousing, just, you know, Patrick Swayze in there bouncing and everybody, you know.
As a kid, it seemed very normal.
Right.
But looking back, I'm like, what was my dad thinking? Because there were times when guys would come up and put a dime in my hand and go, call me when you're 16.
You're kidding me.
No.
Call me when you're 16 with a dime?
Yeah, but I think that I was really protected by my innocence and by people's desire to see something stay that way.
Right.
Plus,
what kind of performing were you doing in a bar at 8 years old? Just singing, I don't know, folk songs that you guys had written or other people?
Some of my dad's original stuff, Willie Nelson covers, John Prine covers, old rock, country, blues.
What was the roughest bar? What's the roughest bar in Alaska?
It was a bar called the AmVets Club.
The AmVets Club?
Yeah, it was a tough crowd. It was for veterans. They all had missing limbs. They were limping around, drunk and depressed, and saying, you haven't been there. You weren't there, man.
You were 8. You haven't been to Romper Room at 8. Where are you supposed to be?
I was 14 by then.
Oh, okay. So this went on for 6 years till...
I got my real education there, you know. Learned to handle crowds, handle bar rooms, handle rowdy people, handle crowds that aren't listening, how to tell stories, how to be funny on stage, how to be impromptu, all those things.
Right. Sort of like almost old-time vaudeville.
Yeah, I was definitely taught, like, the entertainment.
Now, was there any classic training in that, or it was all strictly bars and restaurants and traveling around and doing the road and...
Other than my neurosis, no, I was just, you know, very
and
neurotic.
that's where you get... Do you worry... I always wonder about this, and this happens with comics as well. When you first start doing comedy and doing gigs, you talk a lot about your family and you talk a lot about experiences you've had as you're growing up. And then by the time you're in it for 3 or 4 years and all you're doing is traveling around, your act becomes, hey, I was in Vegas last week. Hey, hotels are crazy. You know, you lose the fuel for your creativity. Do you worry now that your life isn't as rich in those kinds of unique experiences that it's going to hurt your art in any way?
No, because I'm actually seeing more of humanity now. You see more people that are hungry, more people that are in excess, and you see, you know...
But experiencing it in a different way. I think it's different to experience it from a tour bus than it is from actual, you know, traveling around.
Yeah, the stories change for sure. You know, when you start seeing yourself talk about concrete all the time, you're like, how sad. You talk about such beautiful things, you know.
Right.
It is different.
Do you lose your sense of humor about it?
Sometimes I lose heart.
Right.
I was raised around such beauty, and in silence you hear yourself, and you hear who you're going to become in silence. And I was raised with much of that.
Is that what you hear when I'm alone? It's nothing, man. Just a slight buzzing. That's all that really goes on. It's kind of like a bug zapper in many ways. Yeah, just things go in.
Like a Kurt Vonnegut Jr. story.
Exactly. And then it's done.
Well, I did, yeah. I mean, all my spirituality and everything been able to base myself and ground myself out of came from that. And when I'm talking so much now about myself, you know when you say the word ketchup too many times, you're like, ketchup sounds weird.
Right.
Jewel feels that way now, like, Jewel, like, who is that? The stories?
Your name sounds odd now.
You feel odd to yourself, and that's a little sad, but, you know, the rest is worth it. It keeps
Why do I feel like you're older than me? You have that sense of yourself that's very rare. I think when I was, you're how old, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I'm 22.
22, okay. At 22, I'm not even going to go into it, actually.
Do you have pictures?
Not a smart man. No, not a smart man. When you left Alaska, you went to...
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah.
And what was going on there? It was a little bit of
Just wanted to
schooling,
get
a little
out.
bit, right?
Yeah, I needed $11,000, so I earned that in 3 months. I was on my own by then. I lived on my own at 16. My mom helped me kind of figure out how to earn money. I did like this big fundraiser.
Right.
And went to private school. I studied sculpture and fine arts and dancing and
Right.
music.
And then you went back to...
Went to Alaska. I traveled around Colorado. Learned guitar so that I could hitchhike through Mexico. I was going to street sing. And I'd written poetry my whole life since a very young girl and
Right.
grown articulate verbally and with writing. And I'd sung, so it was kind of an easy thing.
Was singing always the thing that you thought, oh, this is what I'm going to do? Or you thought to yourself, well, I'll just be sort of the Renaissance girl and go out and do the sculptures and the poetry, and it just so happened singing took off and became a much larger focus for you?
It was hard to pick. I really was in love with, I did marble carving. And it's
Marble
still,
carving?
Yeah, I still
Sure.
really, really miss that medium. I think singing's a lot like sculpture. It's, you know, very shape-oriented in color, but...
Right.
As kids were asked, how are you going to make a living, not what makes you happy. And I didn't even think I could make a living doing something I loved.
Really? I was just asked to walk the dog. I don't, you know, I have to call my parents tonight. I should have been encouraged more.
It's true. I think parents should. I don't think we're taught how to understand ourselves, how to
Right.
understand our emotions or relate to other people, and we walk around very confused and kind of half-wounded and, you know, have to go to therapists to be understood and God to be forgiven.
Say that again? You even talk like a song. What was that? Therapist to, because it is, therapist, yeah. Have you been to therapy?
Therapy? You know, my dad would send me to therapy.
Would he really?
When I was little, yeah.
When you were little? How old?
My dad's a social worker, you know, they're big on that. They're like, I'm not the problem. An 8-year-old needs to go to therapy.
Exactly. So you went to therapy. You maybe
So I went to therapy.
worked the Bennigans and Juno that
And you're
night
always
and
with
then head
these
to therapy the
therapists
next
that
day.
are working out their problems by helping out other people. You're like, maybe you should just look at you.
Right.
Kids are
Yeah,
like
I never
that.
trust, you know, the kids of therapists are always the most screwed up kids. They're always the kids that have that problem with cats and frogs.
I'm like, you talk to your inner child.
Yeah,
I'll be over here. I'm just fine.
exactly. I appreciate that. Do we have to take a commercial break here? We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to take your phone calls, 1-800-952-2788. And we'll be right. Late Show, we're here with Jewel. And you know what I was going to ask you about? When you were living, you know, there's sort of this thing that's been made. You were living in a car and you were struggling and you're working in coffee houses. Was there any romance in that struggle? Was there anything that was pleasing, or was it all just struggle?
I'm in love with the fight.
With a fight?
You know, everybody is. Not a fight, but the good fight.
Right.
You know, once you start working for yourself, you know, working for bosses where you get sexually harassed and more waitressing, no, it wasn't a good fight.
I know, that used to happen to me
I can tell.
constantly.
But when it was in my car and it came down to, like, I'm going to die or do something I love because I can no longer face consciousness
Right.
every day doing something that doesn't fill me with any passion. Because people shouldn't compromise their pride and health just to have roofs over their heads. When I get to that point where you're willing to die for it, nothing else matters. It's very hard to starve.
Yeah, I don't think most people look at it in terms of that. I think they don't, when people try and get a roof over their head or things like that, it's not so much about compromising their integrity as much as it is about just protecting their basic needs, you know,
No,
food,
but that does
water.
compromise your integrity.
You think?
It does compromise your pride.
So you would advocate for people who have jobs they don't like to get rid of the debt, get in a car and drive and see what they really want to do.
I think each person knows what's good for them. I don't think you have to be drastic. But it's finding where's passion in your life. We can't live without dreams. We are spiritual people. It's undeniable. You know what I mean? And we can't live without that. It's really what feeds us. And we shouldn't spend our energy for worrying about survival. We should worry more about, we're creative human beings. We create cures for diseases. We create arts. We move and change people, and we kill people. You know what I mean? It's
And yet,
like we
then,
should
how
be
do you
thoughtful.
explain the TV show Wheel of Fortune?
Thoughtlessness.
If we are such creative human beings. No, I think it's the kind of thought that I think my father never would have occurred to him. I think
Yeah.
we're a lucky generation
very
in
unique
that
position.
our parents came here, or the parents before them, and they put us in a situation where we can actually think like that. I think, you know, if my grandfather driving a cab around Brooklyn ever stopped and went, "This is not my dream. I want Yiddish theater," you know, that.
But it's because
the
people
family
did
would
do
kill
that
them.
in generation, like Martin Luther King's, that got out and realized my hands manifest thought. I'm going to be careful what I think. I'm going to tell people to be careful what they think. That's what gets us out. That's what really changes things. You know, that's really amazing. And
Yeah, but
it's
you know
true.
what, you
But when I
need-
hear kids being
Yeah.
empathetic about our lives now, I say, no, it's actually exciting. We have more at our disposal than ever before.
Right.
And it is exciting.
But I
you
always
know?
feel like we can't have a society just filled with dreamers and people of creativity,
But see,
because
that's
you know
the
what? You need
thing.
somebody to clean up after you've been dreaming.
Cynicism isn't smarter, it's only safer.
Sorry?
You know what I mean? Cynicism isn't smarter, it's only safer. There's nothing fluffy about optimism.
Where's my pen? Jeez.
Shut up.
Wait, cynicism isn't smarter. It's only I don't mean that cynically. I mean that actually just pragmatically. I mean it more in
but
pragmatically.
People have an
in the
idea
sense
that
of,
optimism is fluffy, like you're gonna have all these people like walking around in hippie
No, no,
clothing
no.
and utopias.
Yeah.
No, it's very practical. It's just a matter of people being more fulfilled and more whole as human beings. Going,
Right.
I know my feelings. I know what I'm talking about. I know how to relate to you without hurting you. No, it's all very practical. It'll make the world run better. You know, it's not fluffiness.
I'm seeing an infomercial and you in Hawaii with a big crowd.
With a hair care
Exactly.
commercial.
MTV, once they started really running your videos and then they took off, was that mind-boggling to find how quickly life changed? The power of MTV.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see how the perception of you changes.
The perception in terms of people that were intimates or people of just the public?
The public. I think fame isn't really experienced by the person who's famous. It's experienced by the fans more. It's experienced by the people who perceive you. That's how it seems. I'm the same. And
Right.
people perceive you now with a new light, with new eyes. But it is an incredibly huge medium. It's stunning.
Right. Did you find that people that you knew before then wanted to snipe at you? Was there an envious nature to it in any way?
I guess there's always that. You know, there's always in your life the 3 girls in high school that hate you and the one that likes you.
Right. And
that
oh,
just
what sweet
increases.
Vindication it is to go back.
Oh, payback's beautiful.
Have you had a situation, have you been back to, let's say, one of the bars in sort of a soul-searching trip, and just to go back to where it all began and what all became of it?
I've never been far from it, you know. I travel with things that remind me of where I'm from. I'm in this because I don't want people to feel alone. You know, I want to live my dream and for people to remember theirs.
What do you travel with that reminds you of where you're from?
Eagle feathers, you know, I've been able to travel with dirt, actually. You know, it sounds
With dirt?
silly, but I like that. It just feels like...
Dirt from Alaska?
Yeah. Candles, you know, just things to make your hotel room a little more
I'm the same
homey.
way. Travel with a 6-pack of champagne wherever I go to remind me of Trenton, New Jersey. It's our finest export, as it goes. All right, one last thing before we go. And you know what? We don't even have to do this, but they kept telling me that you yodel, and it's an amazing thing. And I don't even know what it is, really, except in like the commercials. Would you?
Did you like Germany?
Did I like Germany? I've never been to Germany.
It looked guilty to me. You know, I kept going there. I'm like, God, this place looks guilty. It's all I
you've
could
been there?
think about.
See, I've never been there. I studied German for 4 years.
It was weird.
Just to protect my people in case anything ever happened again. But never went there. Have no desire to go there. Get enough beer and bratwurst here in America.
Yeah, it was wild. Yodeling.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
sexy, isn't it?
Does that take a really long time to master?
It does take a long time. It's out of
Right.
vocal control. It takes a very neurotic 6-year-old is what it does.
You know what I can imagine, though? In concert, it being so unusual and unique, especially for modern music fans, it must bring the house down.
Who thought it was so cool?
And say they go crazy for it. Well, that's very nice. We got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll say goodnight and stay with us. We'll be right back.
Trains last so long, even after you're gone.
Good. Our first